So this is kind of our first shot at grading this. So one thing that we didn't do that we definitely want to take under consideration is our slopes. And I purposely chose this location because I wanted to illustrate a very important point. When you site your building, you usually want to pick an area that's relatively flat. And as you've been watching these videos, you probably noticed that I had to manipulate a lot of contours and move a lot of these things around. And if at all possible, if you can minimize having to move so many contours around, you definitely want to take advantage of that. So when siting something that requires a relatively level area, such as a building pad, you want to pick an area of the terrain that's flat. So what I probably should have picked was this area over here. This is already pretty much flat, and that square would have fit really nicely in there, but I couldn't really, if I chose a spot, I really couldn't illustrate how to move contours around a building. So we need to figure out what is the slope, for example, from the front of this building here down to one of these contours. So I'm just going to pick the spacing between two of these contours. So we know that this dark green contour is every major contour, so that's every 5 feet. So I'm just going to switch workspaces really quick to 2D drafting and annotation. And I'm going to choose this measure tool. And I'm just going to choose nearest. Pick somewhere along that contour line, and I'm going to do a PERP for perpendicular. And choose the opposite side. And I could see that this is about 12 feet. So if we run this through our calculator, so what we need to do is take our vertical difference, which is 5 feet, divided by, so that's our rise, and divide that by our run, our change in x, and that's going to be our 12 feet. What will that come out to be? So let's run it through the calculator and make sure we don't make any math mistakes. 5 divided by 12. That's about a 41% slope, or 42%, so that's pretty steep. And because this is so steep, I already know that I'm going to have to move these contours some more. And I'm probably going to have to put in a retaining wall down here just so that the front of this building can be walkable. Because right now it's going to be like a mountain climbing event. They have to climb up a mountain just to get into this building. They'll probably have to approach it from the side or something. So if they want to utilize the front of this building at all, put some vegetation or whatever on the front, we're definitely going to have to change the grading of the front of this building. So probably down around here we would need a retaining wall, and we would have to move these contours so that the spacing between these contours would be correct. So the question now is, what should the spacing between these contours be? And this is really dependent upon the type of use that our client wants to use this for. So we'll just say, I don't know, 5%. They want this to be 5% slope around the building. So that's going to be 5%. And to get that 5%, they multiplied something times 100. So it was the change in y divided by the change in x, if you remember. So if we want to know what the change in x should be, remember we just swapped the x with the 5%. So x is going to equal y divided by 0.05 basically. So we know that it's about a 5 foot difference between the contours. We're going to take 5 divided by 0.05. So let me clear this out. 5 divided by 0.05. So we need about 100 feet between these contours. So what I did was I went ahead and moved these contours around, assuming that we're going to put a retaining wall here. And this area will become relatively flat, maybe 5% slope through here. Remember that these are major contours, so these are every 5 feet. So let me turn my building reference lines back on. I moved them to their own layer. So the ideal situation would be to have this building located over here where it's already relatively flat. So let's just do that just for the sake of discussion. I'm going to create a copy of this building. I'm going to grab the intersection. So now if we would have placed it here and strategically located where we don't have to do so much grading, that would have been the ideal situation right there. Which means we probably only needed to move these contours over here, and do a little bit with these contours over here, and make this area relatively flat. So from here to here, there's about a 5-foot contour difference, and all we had to do is just manipulate just those 5 feet minor contours. So let me go ahead and turn my minor contours back on, just so that we can see that. So that would have been the ideal situation there. So this is kind of a, I guess you could call it an important lesson to learn. You can either move a whole bunch of contours by not siting the building in the right place, or move very few. But like I said, the reason why we did this is so we can get some experience with moving contours around.